Coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios, this is Prime News on SABC 3. Here are the headlines. The much-anticipated meeting between the ANC and the DA will take place on Saturday. 3 of the country's Chapter 9 institutions will launch an inquiry into the outcome of the trial of televangelist Timothy Omotoso. And in sport news, the Premier Soccer League's Board of Governors overwhelmingly voted in favour for the expulsion of embattled Royal AM, which will see the league finishing with 15 teams. The conversation starts here. Let's dive into the latest news. I am Beki Mutumomolete, your anchor for tonight's broadcast, bringing you the stories that matter most. And here's our top story. The much-anticipated meeting between the ANC and the DA will take place on Saturday. Briefing the media on the sidelines of series of meetings with other political parties, ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula says all is going well. Thus far, the ANC is still to meet the 3 largest parties, the DA, MK Party and EFF.
We have not met yet with the EFF, MK Party, the DA. We have not met with those parties at the Freedom Front Plus, Patriotic Alliance, UAT. We have not met with them, those parties. So, and the Rise Mzansi. We'll meet with some tomorrow. We meet with the DA on Saturday and the Freedom Front Plus on Sunday. All political parties we have engaged with to date have agreed that we will meet next week again, all of us, in terms of interrogating and concretizing the way forward on the question of the budget. There are various suggestions that political parties are making. They are committed to making South Africa work beyond party affiliation, the same as that is the case with the ANC.
Meanwhile, the ANC has started engagements with other political formations on the budget of the country and ways to avoid a VAT increase.
Consultations on proposed alternatives to a VAT increase started this week. Politicians and Treasury are in a race against time to find alternative revenue sources to plug the gap that would have been covered by a VAT increase. BOSA leader Mmusi Maimane has hailed the discussions with the ANC as constructive.
My discussion was focused on how we can achieve a way of alleviating this VAT. The best ways, which we shared with the African National Congress, were really focused on how we can grow the economy, invest more in productive assets. We looked at the best ways as to how we can increase revenue by amending legislation that would make online gambling and sports betting a sin tax, which would accrue more revenue.
The PAC has thrown its weight behind the budget presented by the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, stating that it's a myth that VAT increases solely affect the poor.
The PAC yesterday held a constructive meeting with the ANC to discuss the current budget framework, with particular focus on the contentious proposed VAT increase. The PAC rejects a tax policy that burdens the poor. If a VAT increase is unavoidable, it must be temporary, targeted, tied to real structural reform that address corruption, inefficiency, and elite tax evasion.
Negotiations over the budget continue with the ANC also engaging other political formations. Samkele Masego, SABC News, Johannesburg.
3 of the country's Chapter 9 institutions will launch an inquiry into the outcome of the trial of televangelist Timothy Omotoso. The terms of reference of the investigation are yet to be drawn up. The CRL Rights Commission, the Commission for Gender Equality and Human Rights Commission plan to call several individuals involved in the case to account.
In the Timothy Omotoso trial continues to raise eyebrows as 3 of the country's Chapter 9 institutions now plan to launch an inquiry into the not guilty verdict.
It is therefore imperative that we independently interrogate the gaps highlighted in the judgment and then recommend measures that must be introduced to ensure these do not similarly recur.
Well, it's expected that everyone related to the case, even the prosecutor, could be called.
Our most important people that we'll be inviting to the inquiry are obviously the victims, obviously the institutions, the various institutions within the criminal justice system, civil society, and we'll invite all interested parties from the broader community to come and do submissions to the inquiry.
While the country's witness protection program was also blasted as non-existent. Well, just days before the Omotoso verdict, whistleblower Pamela Mabini was gunned down, and one of the victims, Cheryl Zondi, is said to have been treated unfairly.
This press conference is actually to say, thankfully, the Omotoso matter was in the public eye, and it actually got the attention of the country and beyond. But this, we believe, is what has been happening throughout the process that we are investigating, that we have actually started to follow up.
Crisalda Lewis, SABC News in Johannesburg.
Government has intensified efforts to secure the country's 71 ports of entry, just a week ahead of Easter pilgrimages. Home Affairs Minister Dr. Leon Schreiber unveiled 150 million rand worth of technological devices that will be used by the Border Management Authority to combat corruption and strengthen border security.
Border challenges, these multi-million rand technologically advanced devices promise to enhance border security, cap illegal trade and streamline immigration processes. They include drones, body cameras, as well as biosecurity scanners. The Home Affairs Department says they've been procured through AMSCO and won't spare those attempting to enter the country illegally.
We will look back at the first launch of these devices one day as a key step forward in securing South Africa's borders, in improving the border management environment, and making sure that we move up to the cutting edge of border management in this country.
Plans for this Easter season have also been put in place at all ports of entry. Last year's Easter period saw a sharp rise in travel volumes, with the Border Management Authority recording over 1.1 million movements over a 10-day period from the 26th of March to the 4th of April. This marked a significant increase of 23.33% compared to the 913,000 movements recorded during the 2023 Easter season.
All BMA senior and executive managers will be deployed to critical ports between the 15th and the 24th of April 2025. This includes, in particular, Limbombo Port of Entry to Mozambique, Beitbridge Port of Entry into Zimbabwe and into the continent, Groblersdal Bridge Port of Entry into Botswana, Koopfontein into Botswana, OR Tambo International Airport, Cape Town International Airport, Oshuk Port of Entry into Eswatini, Fixbeck, as well as Maseru Bridge Port of Entry to Lesotho.
Dr. Masiapato says assessments and operations following the Easter period will continue until the next peak travel period expected during the G20 summit, as well as the December 2025 to January 2026 festive season. Mulima Omotoso, SABC News, Pretoria.
Welcome back. 1,200 vacancies will be created for unemployed doctors. This is according to Health Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. He says due to budgetary constraints, they could not absorb all 1,800 unemployed doctors.
The health sector continues to face immense pressure due to aging infrastructure, dilapidated equipment, and staff shortages. However, there's hope. The ministry and the department are working to resolve some of the challenges. The employment of health professionals, including doctors and nurses, have been prioritized.
We believe we are in a position to announce to you today that the council has approved advertisement of 1,200 jobs for doctors, 200 nurses, and 250 other healthcare professionals at the cost of 1.78 billion rand.
Over 1 billion rand has been allocated to procure new health equipment, including beds and mattresses.
The 1.4 million articles will consist of 25,000 beds, which are ICU beds, general ward beds, 3-section electric beds, 4-section electric beds, multifunction electric beds, etc.
The minister also announced a task team dominated by academics to review some of the departmental policies. Refilo Mekwa, SABC News, Centurion.
Support for KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is gaining momentum. Scores of people are expected to participate in a march in support of him tomorrow.
Some of Mkhwanazi's supporters claim that the charges against him are politically motivated. Earlier in March, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, IPID, announced an investigation into Mkhwanazi following accusations that he had interfered with the arrest of a senior correctional services official in Richards Bay in 2023. Organizers of the Hands Off Mkhwanazi March have questioned the timing of the probe against the KZN Provincial Police Commissioner. They say they are satisfied with Mkhwanazi and his no-nonsense approach to fighting crime.
Why didn't you investigate in 2024? Why now in 2025 when he has raised contagious issues that prevents him from doing his work? Part of those issues that he has raised sharply is the mere fact that the specialized unit that was identified to deal decisively with political killings in KZN, which is very rife, was immediately suspended by the incumbent in the office of the Ministry of Police.
Mtunge says their memorandum also contains other pressing issues. The Durban Metro Police have urged motorists to be patient as some of the roads will be affected during the march.
Our traffic management plan for this march is ready. The march will start at Kedis Fountain 9 o'clock to join Johannes Kosi, proceed up on Johannes Kosi, K.E. Masinga, 10 right on Sylvester Ntuli to join Bram Fisher to end up at SAPS Provincial Office.
The march will start at the Kedis Fountain Stadium and end at the Provincial Police Headquarters on Bram Fisher Avenue in Durban Central. I'm Nonhlani Pumakwaza for SABC News in Durban.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has called for trade rules to be recalibrated to provide policy space for developing countries to industrialize. The president said this in his message for the 30th anniversary of the World Trade Organization.
The president says developing countries that account for most of the World Trade Organization's membership remain locked into the lower end of the global value chains. He says the inclusivity promised by the multilateral trading system and by the Doha Development Round has not materialized for many.
Across the globe, the constraints and potential overreach of the rules are limiting access to key policy tools that are required to promote sustainable development. South Africa reaffirms its support for the reform initiative that is being spearheaded by the Director General of the WTO. We must redouble our efforts to ensure that trade supports development. WTO rules must facilitate structural transformation that integrates developing countries into the global trade.
Ramaphosa says the multilateral trading system must be strengthened or risk the encroachment of a global trade regime based on power dynamics.
The WTO is called upon to assert its role in ensuring that global trade works for all. WTO reform must be development-centric. Consensus-based decision-making in the WTO must remain paramount for all of us.
Cameroon will host the 14th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization in 2026. Ramaphosa says this will be an opportunity to define a clear path on reform. Diabosito, SABC News, Johannesburg.
President Donald Trump's decision to pause the implementation of hefty tariffs on many countries around the world has not completely resolved the trade war. The U.S. is continuing to engage in an escalating trade war with China. This will have an effect on global trade.
Tariffs are duties imposed by countries on imported goods. These are charges that are used by countries to collect revenue. Countries can also use tariffs to protect manufacturing interests with the aim of creating jobs. Some countries enter into bilateral trade agreements to avoid trade wars. The recent action by the President of the United States of America to impose tariffs on many countries led to fears of trade wars that would affect the global economy. South Africa was not spared either. However, Trump has since paused the implementation of the hefty tariffs, while still leaving a universal levy of 10% in place.
I'm glad that countries like China, they're really showing him a middle finger to say that they're not scared of him. But it is going to end up in tears, it is going to end up in tears because there is no basis for what it's trying to do other than trying to force all of us to bow to America, which is not something that we're going to stand for.
Some South Africans believe that the time has come for Pretoria to look for alternative markets.
Efforts will intensify to diversify export destinations, targeting markets across Africa, as well as in Asia, Europe, Middle East, and the Americas. Moreover, such efforts will also, where deemed appropriate, involve bilateral arrangements where these allow for the pursuance of our national interests. In our presidency of the G20, as the recent engagements at the G20 Trade and Investment Working Group indicate, the issue of supply chain geographic diversification is a challenge confronting all open market economies across the globe.
The South African government indicated earlier that it will strengthen its trade relations with other countries, including trading blocs such as EU and Asia. Sophie Mkwena, SABC News, Johannesburg.
And now for our sporting news. The Premier Soccer League's Board of Governors has ratified the recommendation by the league's executive committee to cancel Royal AM's membership with immediate effect. Representatives of all 31 professional teams, minus the affected Royal AM, came together at the Sandton Convention Centre in Johannesburg to deliberate the merits of the case.
Royal AM was put under curatorship in December because of its owner Sean Mkhize's 40 million rand debt owed to the South African Revenue Service. And they haven't played a match since late last year. The expulsion of the club will have a significant effect on the Premiership. It means the league will finish with 15 teams and the results of Royal AM's 11 matches played this season will be declared null and void. Several teams, including local leaders Mamelodi Sundowns, should brace themselves for points deductions. Sundowns are currently leading Orlando Pirates by 12 points, but Pirates have 3 matches in hand. The relegation battle will also be affected in one way or the other, while a decision needs to be made on the promotion playoffs as well. Mkhize attended the Board of Governors meeting. She was seen with football administrator Sinkim Nisi, who has served in various capacities at the club. But she cut a lonely figure when she departed a few hours later with the meeting still in progress. Pesinkato, SABC News, Sandton.
Time to see what the weather has in store for us with Mpho Rasimpi.
Thank you very much and a very warm welcome to the weather desk. Let's take a look at those conditions over the country now. We're still experiencing some clearing all over the country after the rainfall has been falling over most of the central parts of the country. Just isolated for tonight over Limpopo, Mpumalanga, stretching towards KwaZulu-Natal and into the interior of the Eastern Cape. It is still going to be a clear day over the mother city for tonight and mostly for tomorrow, stretching all the way into Gqeberha. Moving into the interior of the country, it is going to be a cloudy day. With those cloudy conditions, it means that temperatures will be dropping over those areas, especially as we move into Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and also KwaZulu-Natal. We're expecting some rainy conditions in places for tomorrow. Also some morning fog patches over there as government of Limpopo, stretching into the interior of KwaZulu-Natal all the way towards the southern parts of the country. Remember, with those fog patches, it means that visibility will be reduced. So please, let's be careful, especially those who will be in the road in the morning. Overnight temperatures, it is going to be a cool night over most of the country for tonight, but cold as we move towards Johannesburg, Bethlehem, and also Bloemfontein, with Sunderland dropping down to 9. For tomorrow, remember, rainy conditions over Limpopo and Mpumalanga area is going to be a warm day. But as we move towards the interior of the country, Johannesburg for tomorrow, it is 23, but it will feel like a 15. That is because we do have a breeze that we are anticipating that will be coming in over Johannesburg and also all the way into Bethlehem and also Bloemfontein. So it should be chilly over those areas. So please, if you're going out, make sure that you dress warmly. Upington, it is going to be a warm day with a high of 31. Sunderland, remember, it is cold for tonight, but for tomorrow, it is picking up with a high of 26. Cape Town, also expecting a clear day with a maximum of 26. Moving on to Saturday, it is going to be a cloudy day over most of the country. Cold front is expected over Cape Town. It will drop temperatures as it moves in, and also it will cause a 30% chance of showers and rain. Temperatures will be dropping all over the country because of those cloudy conditions for Saturday. Some rainy conditions are coming in as we move towards that as government of Limpopo, stretching into Mpumalanga, that northern interior of Gauteng, and also all the way into Rustenburg and surrounding areas for Saturday. That's all the weather I have for you. Stay tuned.
And that's all for tonight. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Until next time, from me and the team, stay ahead.